So like I was saying before, you have to believe you won before you even bring it to the public, because you're attempting to settle it in private. You're basically saying, hey, Experian, TransUnion, Equifax, remove this item, report it as, 0% utilization, pay these violations. So you're sending it to the debt collector. You've been harassing me, 15 USC 1692C, pay this invoice. So you've attempted to settle the matter privately. So now what's happening when they don't actually do what you say is you're going to be seeking that public default judgment, Rule 55, and it's going to be signed by the clerk. We're going to get into Rule 55 a little bit later if you're not familiar with that. But yeah, like I said, now you're simply filing a lawsuit for enforcing your remedy because you already gave them a chance privately. They're not going to take you seriously if you don't file that lawsuit. You could send affidavits all day saying this, that, and the third. And in a lot of cases, you're going to get the item deleted if you're just going for a deletion. But when we talk about remedy and getting paid, you're not going to get paid unless you actually file that lawsuit, right? So when you file that lawsuit, that's the point of where they might settle privately or they might go back and forth with you. But as long as they don't answer every question on your affidavit and they don't answer it to the extent of where, they're actually answering what you're saying. And the way that we structure the affidavit, they're not going to be able to answer it anyways. You're going to get that Rule 55 default judgment. It's just about, you have to, dot your I's, cross your T's. So that's what, the Facebook group and everything's for. So best practice. When you're doing this process, you got to remember that you're the alleged debtor and they're the alleged creditor. So when you're going against a debt collector, bank, etc., you just identify who is who, right? Debt collectors and CRAs, they only win cases based on people's ignorance. So the fact that most consumers, they're not aware of the laws, they're not aware of Rule 602, they're not aware of the fact that you need to be sending out these motions, they're not aware of if they get sued, they're not aware of like Rule 12B number 5 as far as a defense motion, which we'll discuss later. So it's important that you study this information and continue to ask questions and get familiar with the process so that you can make sure you're in the best possible situation you can be in. Debt collectors will only send you invalidated billing statements with answering your notices. They're not going to reply line by line to your affidavit. They are not going to reply line by line to your affidavit. The affidavit I'm going to give y'all, the CRAs and the debt collectors, they're not going to reply line by line to it. So because they're not replying line by line to it, they basically did the same thing as not replying to it. So what does that mean? As soon as the days, the 14 days, 30 days, whatever you give them goes by, you've gotten your Rule 55 default judgment, but you have to enforce that. Study the local rules of, the court of where you're filing, because the rules differ everywhere. So just really get familiar with studying. Don't just assume that every court is the same, because that's not the case. And then remember, there's no statute of limitation on fraud. So whenever you discover it, you can go ahead and enforce it.